Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari
Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana
Yashoda Nandana Brajavana Ranjana
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Viram Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Deving Saraswatya Jayiraye Nashtabhayeshvapatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavad Mashloke Bhakti Naisaki Jai. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text 30, 1 to 30. Srividam sasarjagre Bhagavan Atma Mayaya Sadasadrupaya Chasau Gurnamaya Gurno Vibhu. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
Translation. In the beginning of the material creation, that absolute personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, in his transcendental position, created the energies of cause and effect by his own internal energy. Purport. The position of the Lord is always transcendental, because the causal and effectual energies required for the creation of the material world were also created by him. He is unaffected, therefore, by the qualities of the material modes. His existence, form, activities, and paraphernalia all existed before the material creation. There's a footnote to that. Footnote, Sripad Shankaracharya, the head of the Mayavada school, accepts this transcendental position of Lord Krishna in his commentation of Bhagavad Gita. End of footnote. This next statement is in italics, which means Prabhupada is highlighting it for us. He is all spiritual, end of italics, and has nothing to do with the qualities of the material world, which are qualitatively distinct from the spiritual qualities of the Lord. Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Om Jnana Timirantasya Jnana Shakya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Devaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasnubhyaya Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Saevidam Sasarjagre, Bhagavan Atma Maya, Sadasadrupaya Chasau, Gunamaya Guno Vibhu. Can I have a Bhagavad Gita, please? In the beginning of the material creation, that absolute personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, in his transcendental position, created the energies of cause and effect by his own internal energy. So the last verse is giving so many ways in which the Lord is the whole purpose of the Vedas. He's the purpose of austerity. He's the purpose of sacrifice. And that same Supreme Person is talking about the relationship of the Lord with the world, material energy. This is one of the fundamental relationships to understand. Where the world come from? What is its origin? How does it relate to the Supreme Person? Are they the same? Are they different? Is one the origin of the other? So, as Prabhupada points out, even Shankaracharya, who is the acharya of the impersonalist interpretation of scripture, he's actually an incarnation of Lord Shiva. The Padma Purana indicates quite clearly that Lord Shiva comes to help people to come to a gradual elevation of spiritual curriculum, so they could accept the Vedas again after the authority of the Vedas had been rejected for some time. They needed to once again appreciate that actually no, the principle that we are spiritual beings, we're not our body, we're eternal. This is necessary to understand. But he didn't himself directly, until the very end of his pastimes, indicate that it's all about Krishna, it's all about bhakti, it's all about the Supreme Person. He did, right before he was leaving. He wrote and spoke very clearly that we should all just practice bhakti to Krishna. But even him, in his trying to give this gradual elevation of consciousness, he did name that Eko Narayana Asin, that the Vedas have clearly stated that before the material creation, before there was Brahma, before there was Shiva, there was the Lord. And so the analogy given, which I mentioned the other day, is like that of a spider. That the spider's there, and you have two kinds of spiders, hunting spiders and web spiders, right? And the web spiders are the ones that they create these amazing magical little things that they just produce from their own body. Actually, it's produced from somewhere inside their body. They have the capacity to do that. It's their own energy. And then they spit it out, they weave it, they maintain it, and then they take it back into their body, actually. And the Lord is like that. The material energy is actually his energy. He manifests it when it's appropriate. He maintains it. he populates it, he takes it back in. So he is the creator, he's the origin, he's the destination, he's the maintainer, he's the destroyer. It's for him. All the different ways you can kind of imagine a relationship, it's all in relationship to him. And yet, he allows it to be, he maintains it deliberately to be at a distance from him for those who want that, for as long as they want that. And this essential relationship of the energy of the world with him is given early in Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 4, text 6. Ajopi san avyayatma bhutanam ishvaropi san prakriting svamatushtaya sampavami atma mayaya. Although I'm unborn, and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I'm the Lord of all living entities, by my internal energy, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. Prakritim Svam, by my own energy. It's his energy. So if we look at the activities of conditioned souls in this world, we, speaking for myself, I'm also a conditioned soul, I'm acting as if it's my energy, as if it's mine to take. It's not. It's not mine. It's not yours. It's not the president's.
No.
It's not nobody's. It's Krishna's. It's the source's. And he very liberally offers that everybody has the capacity to live a healthy and full life. We have, despite complete mismanagement of resources and debatably overpopulation, we actually have always had more than enough for everybody on the planet. In fact, the idea that there's too much people is just ignoring our horrifying mismanagement of what Krishna's given us, actually. There's enough for trillions of ants, billions of fish, billions of birds, and at least 10 billion human beings, if not many, many, many more, easily. We don't have to create new technologies for that either. It's not a matter of like our fertile brains can find some way to, no, that's not even it. It's all there. It's just a matter of, I think it was Gandhi or someone who said, there's enough for our need, but not enough for our greed. So the point is that there is a situation given, there is an arrangement offered, and understanding that it's coming from source is fundamental in how we relate then, how we live our lives. If we look at historically, most cultures had some sense of understanding that things are coming from somewhere, right? Maybe they understood that there's source. Maybe they understood like, well, even nature herself is very powerful. And we have to revere her, and that's something. That's certainly some sort of honest reverence. And around 400 years ago, 500 years ago, that started to disappear in the Western world, in the developing world at that time. And you had this thing called the Renaissance, and people became very interested in reason and the capacity of the human intelligence, basically, if we look at it, to control the world and to isolate things and understand it. And so what that meant, among other things, was that the essential relationship that was at least unspoken, but often deliberately there, explicitly there, that the world is sacred, that it's also created by higher power, as we are, and animals and plants and all the other living beings, they're also therefore sacred. And that informs how we deal with it. That was taken away. And now, and since then, unspoken, but increasingly explicit, is the idea that it's there for whoever plants their flag on it first. If you can control it, it's yours. It can be your energy. That's actually the modern dream, that you too can be the enjoyer of the material energy. It can be yours to enjoy. In what form? Whatever you like. Would you like land? Would you like rulership and a sense of ownership? Would you like to be the enjoyer of the sexual energy? Would you like to have wealth? Would you like to be the supreme beautiful? Would you like to be regarded as the most intelligent? Would you like to have all the knowledge? Anything you want can be yours. And that is an offshoot of the mode of passion, an offshoot of, I wouldn't even say the Renaissance. The Renaissance itself is a symptom of the conditioned souls in Kali Yuga. But this is not just a philosophical idea that the world is sacred and it belongs to higher power. It has deep implications for how we live our lives. Because if it's not sacred, We can step on whatever we like, including other people, humans. It doesn't matter. Why not? It's all just paraphernalia, right? But if it is sacred, we have tremendous responsibility and tremendous power, tremendous access right now. So the new renaissance, the renaissance of appreciating nature, the renaissance of appreciating natural resources, the renaissance of appreciating other forms of life, non-humans, of appreciating other genders, other sexualities, other ages, other skin colors, all of this is merely a reflection of the reaction to that misunderstanding, the idea that we can plant a flag and say, this is mine, and I'm here to be the boss. That very childish idea. And so, sensible people, sensitive people are in some way or another always actually looking at that and saying that doesn't make any sense and it's not working. This is why, because it's not ours. And if we try to create partial revolutions where we say, well, take it back, it's not being apportioned properly, it's also mine as much as it is yours, then it also just creates partial solutions. It's not really mine, it's not really yours, it's Krishna's. And we can then deal with it safely without burning ourselves and each other in that way. The energy is compared to fire. It's very powerful. Krishna is the supreme powerful. That's the supreme power. And if you try to take it for yourself, you will get burned. That is the nature of material existence. If you try to grab the material energy with a mode of enjoying it, you will get burned. I tried to stick a fork. I did stick a fork in a electrical socket when I was a kid, and I felt it. This is not to play with. And if you appreciate it and you work with it properly, then she will be very generous with you. What was that a job affirmation we read? That I feel that I'm held and surrounded and cared for by the energy of the Lord when I chant offenseless rounds. That there's supreme empowerment from the original Shakti in the form of Samvit Sandhini Hladini. It means you recognize your eternal existence. You become nourished with transcendental knowledge. That doesn't actually get created by us. As we realize as devotees, there's a way in which anyone, no matter how badly you've handled your brain in this life, or what kind of capacity or so-called IQ you have, when you take to bhakti, there's this ingress of knowledge. There's this way in which you become wise, you realize things, and it's descending. That's her mercy. That's the mercy of the Lord's energy. And there's also transcendental joy. There's a kind of joy that goes beyond pleasure, that goes beyond the material energy, that any kind of pleasure that's available from the interaction of sense objects, spiritual joy. So just like there is a spiritual energy, there's also a material energy, which is just her reflection. So this energy is coming from Krishna. He's like that spider. He's releasing it, he's creating it. But unlike a little tiny web, you have universes, each with so many planetary systems, each with so many different forms of life, each kind of form of life being provided everything it requires. It's not random. And even the mechanisms of the world, for example, like demigod worshippers will appreciate that. Well, actually, let's see, Brahma is the creator. And in a way, they're right. Brahma takes all the different Lego blocks and he follows the instructions and he creates. And it's like, well, what a good job you did, my dear child. It's like, that's amazing, actually. Brahma is the supreme creator that way, but he didn't create the actual substance. So the verse says, the Prabhupada says in the purport, he's the causal and effectual energies are coming from him. This also we mentioned in the other day, that the effective and the efficient and or instrumental and ingredient cause or something. So like you have in pottery, you have the actual clay. That's the thing that becomes, like, from a mass of earth and water, it can become whatever you're making, a vase or something, right? That's the actual ingredient. So the earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, that's coming from Krishna. That's his energy. And then you have to have the potter's wheel. And you have to have some hands, right? So Brahma's like the hands. We can also be little hands. We also have some agency. But the wheel is there that Krishna is giving it. He's the effective ingredient as well. Time, the intelligence given to the living entities, that's also coming from him. So in every way, we're surrounded by him, even in our material existence or so-called material existence. We can't breathe without his help. In fact, we're not actually really breathing. We're being breathed. If you think about it, we're living in this little machine, and the machine is breathing. And sometimes you can control that if you think about it, but most of the time you don't, even when you're awake. We're just living in a breathing machine. Provides us the oxygen we need to keep the machine going. And so, this is very inducing of humility. This is very inducing of sensitivity because it's like, I don't want to damage anything while I'm here. I don't want to hurt anybody. I want to appreciate the sanctity of the situation, and so appreciates how we, you know, interact even in terms of our basic material needs. Like devotees are like, yeah, I got to eat, but I don't want to just stuff my face. I want to recognize it came from Krishna, and I want to eat in a way that's creating minimal damage and harm to other living entities. And I want to explicitly offer it back to Krishna in love. It's like that's actually a very refined thing because everybody gets to eat, actually, everyone, all the time. All the ants get what they're eating. Like, how many ants live under this house right now? 1 million, maybe? A lot.
Jeez.
They just live there doing their thing. And did you have to take care of them? No.
No.
They're all getting what they need, And that's baseline. But refined is when you grow up and realize I'm being maintained. And wow, I'm really grateful. Thank you. And can I please see you? This heretofore faceless source that's been feeding me for so many lifetimes and everyone else. That's actually a very, very advanced position. That's a position that's very much respected by even the great demigods. It's like when someone starts to wake up to that and starts to act in that, then the world changes for them, actually. And even the demigods, the great advanced devotees, will notice, like, wow, they congratulate that person. And Brahma is described in one of the commentaries, sixth canto of Bhagavatam, commentary by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Like the demigods, they have different time scales because they live different kinds of lives. They live in different places. That there's relative time, right? Like for us, insects will live and die sometimes in the course of a single day. They'll have a whole lifetime. And for them, it feels like a life. For us who go to sleep, they're being born, we wake up, they're dead. But for Brahma, it's like that. His lifetime is 311 trillion, 80 billion years. But it feels like a lifetime for him. But for us, it's like staggering. So from his point of view, when he sees a living entity, Vishwanath says, when he sees a living entity even begin to practice bhakti, he prepares this beverage for them that they'll drink as they're leaving the material world to go back to Godhead. Because for him, it's like that. These little bumblebee living entities that are coming and going so fast and running around like chickens with their heads cut off. From him, his point of view, they're moving so quickly and coming and going and living and dying. As soon as one takes the bhakti, he's like, that's it for them. Whether they're going, right away from their point of view, or they have to kind of get it together and work on themselves, and maybe it's a couple lifetimes even, but from his point of view, it's like, that's it. They're getting there. It's inevitable now. They're waking up, like when someone's waking up, they may press the snooze. They may lie in bed a little bit and doze, but they're up. And so even for devotees, we may struggle with the material energy and have to relearn this lesson that it's not mine. It does burn if I try to take it for myself. It's not actually a thing I can digest. It's not for me. But it's also a great opportunity to serve Krishna. That can happen. And it can be sometimes over a whole lifetime. It can be like multiple mini fall downs and comebacks. And that's okay because we're getting there. And so that's why we always have to hear about this. And Hare Krishna. So we talked about how Krishna is like the spider manifesting his own energy. And we talked about the clay and also the potter's wheel, the ingredient and instrumental costs also coming from Krishna. We talked about how historically letting go of the idea that things are sacred and they come from higher source, although seemingly like very intellectual and reasonable, leading to and associated with such a reason-based development of culture, has really just been a cover for our egos. It's really just been a cover. It's not technology hasn't saved us from the problem of repeatedly burning ourselves. It just created bigger fires to get burned by. That it's not like the revolution of the intelligence and the human reason has actually solved the problems. It just created new problems.
Right.
There can be no solution as long as we divorce the material world from its supreme husband. As long as we try to create that false separation, which is just a cover for our own desire to plant flags. As long as we do that, there's problems. And as long as we don't, we're okay. Basically okay. And we talked about how, even the modern revolutions are just a reflection of the desire to come back home and to reconnect our own natures and the natures of people and the world around us with the divine, to have it make sense and to be purposeful and beautiful again as it is in the light of its own actual relationship. And Hare Krishna. Let's take some comments, questions, and reflections. Short purport, short verse, a lot there.
I'd like to comment if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just inspired and in awe. So Frank and I were having this conversation this week, and he was asking questions, what about creation. And I was trying my best to explain it, and I did not do very, very good job. And then all of a sudden today, that's what you're talking about. And I almost WhatsApped you to ask you, where in the Shastra can I find this, this concept of the creation and how it's all Krishna's energy? And here it is, Friday morning, and we're talking about it. I just find that, miraculous. And one of the things that I love, I know you said it kind of quickly, but I had to write it down, was there's enough for our need, but not enough for our greed, by Gandhi. I just think that is such a poignant quote, and thanks for sharing it.
Yeah, and our quota is defined not by us and by our own minds. It's defined by our situation, and it's defined like bodily situation, mental situation. It's defined by higher power. That's mentioned in the Ishopanishad. Ishavasya idam sarvam yat kinsha jagatyam jagatena tyaktena punjita magrita kasya svidhanam. Everything that is animate and inanimate is owned and controlled by the Lord. One should therefore take only what is set aside for them as their quota, and not any more or less, knowing well to whom it belongs. It's the first verse after the invocation of the Ishopanishad. That's from the Upanishads, old scripture. Nobody can say it's just Bhagavad, it's just Bhagavad Gita, or it's just the Bhagavatam. It's like it's in all the Upanishads. It's all there. And if you want more scriptural references as to Krishna being like the manifestor of the world, 7th chapter Bhagavad Gita is really good. 13th chapter Bhagavad Gita is really good. Canto 1, chapter 3 is really good. There's lots of places. There's lots of places in Canto 2 and 3 that really manifested in super technical detail. Yeah. And you can also play for Frank this class if he likes.
I will. Thank you.
And then he'll hear you talking about him. Hare Krishna. Siddhanta. And welcome back, Siddhanta Prabhu and Madhuri Gopinath.
So nice to be here. Yeah, there's a kind of a paradox in this whole thing. So, like Krishna creates this material energy, right? And we're like cast into it, right? So like he's creating, seems like kind of like a trap for us in some ways, I've had this discussion with a lot of people, and I used to wonder myself. So like, yeah, if we're meant to be with Krishna, we're meant to go back to God, why does he put us into this really challenging environment? Right? And we start to think about, we look at the other species, the other living entities, and we look at ourselves as, well, we're humans. Okay, so what does it actually mean to be human? It's a huge gift on one hand to be somehow evolved spiritually into this really, really special, rare form. And with that form, there's tremendous freedom, as we know. We have this really amazing intelligence. We have these amazing senses. Just look at, you travel to a place like Italy and you see what Michelangelo created, Leonardo da Vinci. They were just like, you talk about the Renaissance, right? They were just like so advanced, and their minds are so amazing. And even today, you see what humans are creating. So we're gifted this really amazing, all these amazing faculties, which lead us to, as you said, to want to lord it over things. We become so powerful that we really start to believe we are God, that we can control this material energy. You see, and that's the trap that we fall into.
Mhm.
But the other side of the coin is we're given a superior intelligence where we actually have the capacity now to realize the supreme, to realize and to have the intelligence to actually come to that realization that there is something more powerful than us, right?
Yeah.
And that is a tremendous gift. So we're given basically a choice when we're thrust into this material body. Do we want to pursue the material pleasures, which seems like everyone's doing? That's like the normal thing to do, it seems like, right?
Mhm.
And the radical thing seems to be, perform austerities and worship deities and, surrender and, and all this stuff. That seems to be like nowadays people are like, okay, something wrong with that. You're living
Yeah.
you're living in the past. You're living, we've evolved as humans into something which is much more advanced. And men just,
Yeah.
invaded and invented these religions to try to explain things. And now we have all the answers, right? But actually, I've been listening to some really interesting podcasts, and there's one guy, he's very spiritual, and he said science is actually approaching the point where they're going to unveil the truth that there is something superior, that our intelligence is different than our actual consciousness, and that consciousness is something that's not limited to the body. And there's so many things coming out now that are
Yeah.
really kind of like redefining the paradigm,
Mhm.
right? That we aren't this body. And science, once science like reveals that, it's just like people are going to like, oh my goodness, it's going to be like an aha moment for humanity.
Yeah.
But what gets back to the basic thing is it all depends on faith. So if we don't have that shroud of being, which, it's that little speck of faith, then it's very difficult for us to transcend this material energy. And some of us naturally just we feel we have that faith, we were born into it or whatever, we discuss that a lot, like I was born to a certain family, Christian family, we went to church every Sunday. We were always told that, God is the supreme and surrender. And for some of us, very natural. And for others of us, it really requires a huge leap, to just kind of say, all of this material stuff, everything that society's created for us, it's so temporary, it's so ephemeral, it's just here and it's gone and it's always changing. We can't really grasp it. And we're just, like you said, you try to, control that, and you're going to get burned, and just people don't want to learn that lesson. But we're so fortunate that first of all, we're born to the human body. Second of all, we're very fortunate, extremely fortunate that Mahaprabhu appeared here only 500 years ago.
Mhm.
I mean, that is just an amazing gift that he actually came here during this Kali Yuga, to give us this chance. A really, really easy way.
Yeah.
Just through the holy name, just by chanting this simple mantra without offense, right? Which is another challenge. But, we're given this amazing opportunity in this Kali Yuga, to take advantage of this. And the Bhaktivinoda Thakur songs, Udila Aruna, we sing it every morning, Jeev Jagara. He's like, why don't waste this human birth? And we have to choose. We want to serve Maya or we want to serve Krishna. Can't do both, right? You have to choose one or the other.
Yeah.
So choice
Yeah.
is ours. We're given this free will. And with a little faith, we can very, very easily and beautifully and wonderfully just follow this very sweet path. It's laid out right there for us. And the gurus are showing us, they're leading the way as the acharyas, following the footsteps of the acharyas, and it's pretty much done for us, I mean, everything's figured out. We don't have to figure out anything. Just have to overcome our own egos and overcome our own, prejudices and our own, predilections, all these things, and just surrender, But anyway.
Yeah,
but-
thank you.
No, thank you so much
Hare Krishna.
for shedding light on that. And,
Yeah.
it's
It's an interesting dynamic, the relationship between like just to pick like one thing out of the many beautiful points you made, the like modern science and it's approaching the idea that there's higher power and so forth. It's actually like really interesting because I would argue that it's always been the case,
Mm.
and it continues to be the case, that the frontiers of science in every way, whether it's physics or neuroscience or whatever, run up against the ceiling,
Mm.
Mhm.
at which point it becomes impossible to actually
Mhm.
so-called objectively understand reality.
Mhm.
For example, in neuroscience, there is absolutely no approach to the question of what produces consciousness.
Right.
There's two different camps, and they're basically two different philosophical positions. They're not neuroscientific positions because there is no way to actually empirically test
Right.
it.
Right.
There's the idea that, well, somehow or other, matter is manifesting in consciousness.
Yeah.
And there's the point of view that, well, no, somehow or other, it's not manifested by matter at all. And that's what we're saying, by the way.
Right.
That's what Shastra
Right.
was saying, that it's
Right.
actually, it's a transcendent quality. It doesn't actually manifest from material substance. And, there's a lot of evidence, the Ian Stevenson's reincarnation
Mm.
research and
Yeah.
his person who followed in his footsteps, solid research, very scientifically
Yeah.
well respected. American Medical Association has favorably reviewed it.
Yeah.
And yet anybody can look at that research and be like, okay, so something's going on, but why does it have to be God? Why does there have to be a soul? You can actually, my point of view, my sincere understanding of whatever I've seen, Krishna still lets there be free will. As you point out, there has to be some leap of faith.
Right.
There has to be some point at which you're like, maybe. And you have to kind of call out and ask for it, because Krishna's not going to force himself on anybody.
No.
He never does that. But yeah, like the way in which some people are causelessly, apparently, born into a certain amount of, not even external faith, but internally, like they have a certain amount of conviction that there's a spiritual thing. That's a product of their previous activities,
right.
devotional activities. It may seem random.
Yeah.
Like some very frustrated atheist may say, well, it's very nice for you that you were born thinking like you can pray, but I've never had such conviction. It's like, well, but you can in the next life. You
Mhm.
can right now too.
Mhm.
And it's a matter of at some point like softening.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
what if there was? What if it's possible that there's a transcendent person behind all this? Could they please reveal themselves to me? Could there be some process where I could ask for them?
Mm.
Instead of trying to dissect further and further and into the atom and whatever you can to find him, rip it apart. Where are you? It's not going to work that way. It's not going to work that way. There's a way in which like even the material advancement to the technology represents just like a twisted perspective on how to find God. It's like not going to happen that way. The spiritual technology can allow him to descend, can call him to descend. It's not actually like an ascending thing. Empirical science means ascending knowledge. Like I can figure it out by the own strength of my power, whether it's through technology, electronics and physics and all that stuff, or it could be like the power of my own brain. As a philosopher, I can make the Lord appear. That's never happened. Not in his personal form. It's never happened. So there has to be some way in which we like take the bhakti and call him. That's the real technology. That's the real mystical power. Far greater than iPhones and even like what you mentioned about the technology of like Michelangelo and Da Vinci, which is remarkable, and the geniuses of today is nothing compared to the genius of the like philosophers and speculators, in previous ages, like the great yogis and mystics and impersonalists, and they were like beyond what Da Vinci could even dream of, living for thousands and thousands of years, living on the power of one breath. The austerities that even Hiranyakashipu performed, are beyond us. And he was a great demon, a great materialist. So technology goes way beyond what we can imagine, but it's still nothing compared to the technology of bhakti. That's the real technology. Yes.
I have a question. So I read, I'm not going to remember what the source was, but either read or heard something this week about this topic, and it puzzled me for a second. So it was talking about Brahma and how Brahma didn't really create everything. Like it was Krishna that created everything. And that the reason we are here isn't necessarily a trap per se, but the soul wanted this.
Yeah.
The soul wanted this. So Krishna made all these souls, right? And the soul wanted this. And so he's like, okay, like I'll give you whatever you want. And then Brahma then manifested, a lot of the things that we're talking about. So is that an accurate depiction or description of that? It just was something that I was like, oh, because we wanted it. It wasn't like he created this to throw us here to test us to then come back. Like there was a desire of the soul at the time that they're floating around that we wanted more, or we wanted this stuff, right? So can you put that into context?
Yeah. Reality isn't arbitrary. It's responsive. So just like our liberation from material entanglement is due to our actions and our intentions. Once again, becoming entangled can be due to our actions and intentions. And you can see that even in this life. You can take the Krishna consciousness and you can be like, I really want to jump back into the ocean of material energy. And you can do that.
People do.
Then you can come back again if you want. We can see that. I've seen that. In fact, practically, we see it in ourselves second to second. Sometimes you're just like, give it to me. They're like, oh my God. Oh, Krishna, health. I blanked out again for a second. And it's not arbitrary. There's a way in which it's responsive. So yeah, I would say the fundamental attitude of a devotee who's advancing is an attitude of responsibility, because whatever way we look at it, like advanced devotees are always humble and they're always like, I'm very small and I'm prone to bad decisions on my own. I need you, Krishna. And I choose you. And please help me. Prahlad Maharaj even says this. Prahlad Maharaj is there in front of Nrsingadev. He's been calling for him. He's an innocent boy. What does he know about Maya? But he, in his prayers, among so many other things, he says, my senses are just like dragging me in every which way, every direction, and I'm such a fool that I go with them. The only thing I want from you is you protect me, that I don't fall down again into this wheel of time, which has been crushing me, like a miller's wheel, like making me into like dust. You save me from that. That's all I want. He's very humble. So this position of humility and personal responsibility is universal among advanced devotees. So that's the answer to that question, is like, if your mode of advancement is leading to that and is taking accountability for your own choices, and there's that sense of like, yeah, Krishna is not a tyrant. He didn't throw me here because he's like cackling somewhere, testing me. Like there's a way in which I asked for this, that's a deep thing for someone to come to in the middle of their suffering. Can you imagine? You go through something awful, and not in a like self-negating, tamasic, I suck way. Are you saying like, I asked for this? There's a way in which like, okay, I'm in this world, somehow or other, this must be what I need to get past this moment. Even this tremendous loss, even this horrifying grief, even this tragedy that no one really deserves. I'm not victim blaming here. There's a way in which one can take radical responsibility for even being in the material world, this place of tragedy, be like, okay, so be it. And I'm not blaming Krishna. And that attitude is an attitude of success. So that's kind of the solution, because it is basically like a puzzle, like what came first. But the solution is that point of view and that personal accountability. And we find that in the advanced devotees. And yeah, Krishna is not arbitrary, and Brahma is very much the secondary creator. And our situation is always responsive, and always was.
I was thinking about, I love the analogy of the spider and how the web comes from inside the spider and then it, manifests out and it maintains it, protects it, and builds a home and then like brings it back in. And I was thinking about the spider itself and being Krishna, and how there's like, or what is it called, arachnophobia or something? Like there's like so many people have such a fear of spiders. And was thinking about like faith and fear. Even some of us that have faith and are in the room may have a fear of spiders, right? But there's like it has 8 legs. It crawls around in a way that, like, even though some of them are poisonous, but let's say not the poisonous ones, like they're not gonna hurt us. They can't hurt us.
We weigh billions of times more than they do.
Right, but we're like so afraid. So I just was thinking about like, there's so much fear around God.
Yeah.
And then just like, I want nothing to do with you. Or if there's a spider, like, oh my God, kill it. Like it's just this like,
Yeah.
And how
Sometimes
that's
we
somehow
pride
really
ourselves
good.
on being very reasonable,
yeah.
but we're actually emotional beings. And if you have a revolution of reason that doesn't address our emotional natures, it becomes quite imperfect. Among other things, like you point out,
Right.
we have these little programs in our mind where things that are creepy and crawly can be scary because they represent an unknown that could hurt us, and so fear serves to protect. And people, I'm sorry to say that in Kali Yuga, one of the effects of living in Kali Yuga is that people are afraid of God
Yeah.
because others have presented God in an awful way, and they
Harmful way.
abused God. Religion is a 4-letter word, and so people are, generally speaking, in Kali Yuga, they're not reflective; they're reactive. And because they're reactive, even if they don't realize they're reactive, then it's like, oh, spiders, oh, religion. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's not reasoned. It's not like, what's going on here? Why am I averse to this? People don't question what they're averse and attracted to, by and large. They just go with it, and they call it reality. I like it, therefore it's good. I feel good here. I feel good in this relationship, therefore it must be working. I feel bad, therefore I'll leave it. It's like all very relative to our flickering minds. So our relationship with the Supreme can be just as flickering. Like, oh, I love God. Like, I've been loving God since I was a child. Well, why? Because your parents told you to? Okay. How long is that going to last? Oh, I hate God. Well, why? Because you realize that people have been killing in his name? Okay. How long is that going to last? Like, is that actually a reasoned position? Is that actually knowing God? Not really. So there's this same kind of shallowness to the relationship. It's like, I love that person. No, your pheromones love their pheromones, you know? So we're actually, we can have that. We can have all those things. Or we can have depth. We can have depth. And if we have depth, then we'll see that if we access that capacity for depth, we'll see that we have the inborn capacity to realize God beyond his presentations and the relative ideas and the culture and the language and the power structures and all those things. Those things are coming and going. And yet we've always known there's someone receiving us. There's always like a person there. There's prayerful potential. There's always something. We have that potential for that depth. And that's what bhakti is tapping into. It's a very different thing than the flickering mind or even the reasoned patient intelligence. It's much deeper than that.
I just wanted to go back to the original affirmation that we started with that was so nice, to start with that. This idea that when we chant the mantra without offense, we are protected by this Hladini Shakti, right?
Yeah.
So this is what really, for me personally, just made a difference with this Vaishnavism and previous or other, faiths that I followed previous in this life or previous lives, is that this Hladini Shakti is Krishna's internal loving pleasure potency. It is Radharani. She is the embodiment of that. And the gopis are the embodiment of that as well, because they are extensions of Radharani. So if we really take to this path of Mahaprabhu, we inevitably come to that really kind of high, very, very special idea of this God as this really loving, sweet, full of sweetness, full of love, this really amazing feeling that we get, that we, after all, as humans, we're all after that, aren't we? When we get into relationships, whether it's with our children or with our boyfriends or our husbands or our parents, we're always, that always leads to love.
Rasa.
Always, that always leads to love. And love is the key, and that's really, so special in this path, If we can get into these pastimes and really go into this Rasa Leela and things, it's really special. I'm not saying we want to jump into that, but it's there, right?
We're reading Krishna book right now, and Uddhava just went back to Vrindavan, and Radharani is like having her ecstatic relationship with the bumblebee, and it's all there.
Yeah.
And so as far as Mahaprabhu's gift to us, you know, it's described by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami that he made a garland out of the holy name,
Mm,
and he infused it with his own prema, his
mm,
own love of Krishna.
Mm.
So yeah, like intrinsic in this process, which is like at the beginning, just like waking us up to the fact that there are higher ideas and I'm not my body, and like letting go of like these larger bad habits and opening our eyes to things. It's contained within that is the pathway to realizing our spiritual identity and
mm,
our intimate relationship with Krishna. It's all there in the holy name, very much.
Yeah.
Our acharyas have stressed the necessity and value of chanting with attention. That's the vehicle that Krishna has chosen to manifest himself through. So that, and like, you know, hearing Bhagavatam with devotees, these are the fundamental things that really like nourish that. So that's the medicine.
mm.
That's what works. And it's on demand. You don't have to go, you don't have to pay for it. You don't have to go anywhere or have a certain skin color or age or condition. It's like, just chant, just do it. Wake up first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
You know, chant. Full permission is there. Any other reflections, questions, comments? All right.
I mean, I'm sorry I will be brief.
Don't be sorry.
I was thinking I've been thinking a lot about this. And that line that he says is, he's all spiritual and has nothing to do with the qualities of the material world. And I think, you know, from traveling, this has been really, really clear to me. You know, we started in Florence and it's like so much material energy there still. Like it's beautiful, but there's so much material energy. Then we went to Mayapur, and like, you know, what's interesting is that you can feel the pulse of the land. You feel Krishna, you feel Lord Chaitanya, you feel all of that. But then you also look around and you see the souls and the people of India trying to like rat race up to the material life. And that's really painful to watch these individuals like trying for what we have, which isn't better. And then, you know, then we left there and then we went to Sardinia, which is like this, like so many untouched places of this world. I've never seen anything like it. Like places where there's no homes, places where it's just vast forests and mountains and oceans, and that people can't touch because it's literally untouchable. And it makes you realize the spiritual energy of divine making. And so I'm coming back here and just looking around, and like we live in such a beautiful state, but yet so much of it is man-made. So much of it has been contrived to be kind of this mood and this vibe and this way. And it's like people are proud of it and people are, you know, like really into it. And I just like am trying to like also wrap my head around like, how do we keep holding on to that pure essence of creation in all that we do? You know, I'm about to like go back into work in a few weeks, and like all of that is so just made by humanity, like all of the drama and the challenges and the
Artifice.
all of the yeah. And so like, how do you hold on to like the purity of creation
Yeah.
when you're in it?
Yeah. I mean, you know, that's what like great thinkers and poets and artists and spiritual people have been asking for so long, especially since the Renaissance, especially since the technological advancement and the external development and the growth and, you know, complexity of human artifice is really multiplied more and more and more. The basic answer, since you're asking, is that we actually have to call on the source, because it's his energy. It's by his grace that when you walk into the, you know, untouched forests of Sardinia or some rocky island no one's ever stepped foot on before, you feel something because there's some essence coming from him. And when you look in someone else's eyes, you see someone looking back at you because that's his energy. So, you know, it's not a bad thing for the human to use their hands and mind to create stuff. That's not a problem. We're not advocating for like, a return to the Stone Age. We're not Luddites. We don't fear and abhor technology. What
Right.
we're saying is that the perfection of human intelligence is to create and operate with a consciousness of Krishna, with a consciousness of higher power. And when people do that, I mean, like most of the great artists were in touch with the fact that there's a divine source anyway. They're not operating based on a full surrender to the false ego, you know. And Mayapur also has so much great man-made, you know, the temples and what have you. But these flower arrangements were all created by human beings. But there's a way in which when somebody is choosing to use their intelligence to like, it's like you're seeing that there's already something there and you're just trying to serve it versus you're trying to create something out of your own, you know, and you want people to see how you created like a unique thing. You create a brand, you know, or like, this is my contribution to the world. There's a difference between spiritual and material consciousness. It's like, I made this versus no, I didn't make it. I'm just serving it. I'm serving that which already has value, you know? So the bhakti process puts us in touch with the conviction that actually things already have value. We can't recreate that ourselves. So we have to, as devotees, really take bhakti seriously because it's what lets us to stay in that and not go with this crazy flow of modern life, especially in this part of the world. And then for those who are not ready to hear about the direct process of bhakti, at least talk to them in indirect terms about, hey, yeah, like everyone knows when you walk into a forest, you feel something that you can never be made in a city. It's unique and special. It can never be made by a human being. There is something there that you can like, you can do your conservation attempts, and you can like be careful and you can respect it, but it's still beyond you. So people are ready to hear about that. You know, Vermont is full of people who appreciate nature. And that's all that is an appreciation of Krishna indirectly expressed. So like helping them to see like, yeah, you know, maybe all the messages of the modern culture, which are saying that, you know, make your own way and be independent, that's not really working. And just like respecting that which already has value, including the land, including life itself, whether it's human or non-human. So yeah, I kind of alluded to that when I talked about like people like environmentalists and anti-fascism, anti-sexism, anti-racism. These are all different attempts to kind of come back to value. So, but for us, we're very privileged because just by connecting to the supreme source, we can see that with the value on finding all these different separate things, apparently separate things, is because they're all connected. And you can feel bad too. You can feel bad for the way the world's going. It's not a bad thing to feel bad. The great acharyas have grieved for the way the world is going. And because of that grieving has been the engine for their doing something really serious to help the living entities to actually come in touch with spiritual solutions. And if they hadn't do that, we wouldn't be here. So
Yeah.
you can do it too. Srila Prabhupada ki jai,
Jai.
Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai.
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha prasantu yevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo. Hare Krishna.